Hi folks, I'm Steve Brown, and today I want to talk to you about our little garden, raised beds, our hothouse raised bed where I planted tomatoes last winter when it got down to 20 degrees and kept them alive. So stay tuned. Hi folks, I'm Steve Brown, and I want to welcome you to White Rock Homestead, home of Steve and Mary Brown. We moved here back in 2016 in the fall. This place was a forest. The ground was covered in white rocks and it was a mess. We had this 80-foot double wide moved in here, and we moved in and call it home. We have lived all over the United States, it seems. We've traveled all over the United States. We lived in Washington State, Kansas City, down in Texas, over in Atlanta, Georgia. But this is home. Mary grew up here on this old place. This was a 40-acre dairy farm where she grew up. I grew up about a mile from here on a dairy farm. And we met at church and got married back in 1965. So we've been together a long time. But we got up in years and decided to move back to the home place, and we're trying to make this a homestead and raise some vegetables. Times are getting hard. The COVID-19 is a scary situation, and we just decided we needed to can a few things last December and January, and I began to watch YouTube channels for Jess and Jeremiah up in Vilonia, and Kevin and Sarah up at Living Traditions Homestead up in the Ozarks, and many, many others. Got enthused about gardening, built a raised bed, put a top on it, and I put a little space heater in it, and I planted some tomatoes last January, and we harvested our first tomatoes out of there the other day. Enjoyed them. But we want to welcome you to the White Rock Homestead. Thanks for tuning in. And we want to show you around the place a little bit, show you some of our raised beds and our blueberry patch, and hope you enjoy our little 2-acre homestead. Thanks for tuning in. We've got some okra plants growing here and a couple of cucumbers. They're coming along great. Almost looks like they're getting ready to bloom. I've really babied these things. This was just a mass of grass like that. And I dug a little trench about 10 and 12 inches deep and filled it with super soil, and planted these okra seed probably a month ago, and they're really coming along fine. Over here I got some Kentucky Wonder beans. Look at those blooms. This thing is just blooming like crazy. Planted these things probably, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks ago, and just dug little short trenches in the ground in the middle of the grass patch and put down the ground cover and put the trellis up, and they are just blooming their heart's content. Hope to have beans real soon. Over here is my raised garden with two 2x12s filled with super soil from the landscaping company. Got 4 tomato plants, a couple of Kentucky Wonder beans, a couple of loofah plants growing up the tower. Look at them clouds. It's going to cloud up and rain yet. The beans and the loofahs are growing right on up this tower. I don't know what to expect out of all that. This originally was my asparagus bed that I filled it with 16, 18 asparagus plants a couple of years ago, and I didn't do well, I guess. They didn't, most of them didn't survive. We got 50 onion sets and put them out. I heard on YouTube the other day that nitrogen helped the onions, so I put a little blood bait around these onions, I don't know, a week or so ago, and they have really come on strong. I believe that blood bait really helped them. This is our kale. We've got 6 kale mixed in here. I have harvested, I forgot, 2 or 3 times off of these kale plants. Ate some of it, cooked it, and the last batch I dried and made powder out of it. And looks like I'm real close to needing to harvest it again. The tomatoes are looking good. I wished we'd get some tomatoes out of them. Really looking forward to some homegrown tomatoes. They're blooming like crazy. Over here we have my, I don't know, a spur of the moment thing. I built this bed to put some mulch in, but I decided to go ahead and put some super soil on top of it and plant a few things, and my soul, this thing's turned out to be quite the bed. It's just growing like crazy. I wished I'd have made it 24 inches high instead of 12 inches high. I just spread out some ground cover from Home Depot. No, it wasn't. It was from Sam's on the ground. 4 feet wide, 5 feet. I guess it's about 5 feet of ground cover. And put the 2x12s on top of it, leveled it up with white rocks. White rocks is where we got our name, White Rock Homestead. Planted some marigolds here on the front. We've harvested, I couldn't tell you how many radishes out of this bed. Got a second crop of radishes coming on. Got some squash blooming their hearts out here. Looking forward to some squash. Look at there. We're gonna have squash in a day or two. They're coming along really good. And looks like we're gonna have a lot of squash. Couple of dill plants mixed in here, and I guess I got it too close, but I've got a jalapeno pepper growing in the middle of all this, and look at there, there's a bloom down there. Wow, Mary don't care for jalapenos too much, but I get a kick out of them. When we moved here, there was a brush pile here, and I burned the brush, and after we cleared off the remainder of that, this sycamore, cottonwood, grew out of that brush pile, and my soul, in 3 years it has just gone crazy. I can't believe it. These little trees came up naturally. We didn't plant them, but we sure are pleased that we got some trees growing in the yard. Here's my other little patch that I've planted. We got little patches all around. Man, look at that. Something's been digging in my mulch. We planted, what have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blueberry plants. And I put them the right distance apart, and it was so far apart I thought, well, while I'm waiting on the blueberry plants to grow, I'm gonna put some squash in the middle. Look at that. Wow. We'll have squash out of them in a few days, Lord willing. Another squash plant between 2 blueberries. Look down there, got some squash growing in there. We'll have squash off of that plant in a few days. Looking forward to get some blueberries off of these things in a year or so. Another tree that came up naturally after we moved here. All this front yard was bare rocks. Picked up all the rocks, thus White Rock Homestead. You'd think that we're raising birds and squirrels around here. I feed the squirrels and the coons and the chipmunks out here on the ground. And this morning I had, I don't know, 15, 20 squirrels out here. We got 4 black squirrels. Down here the other day I dug a hole about 12, 14 inches deep and planted pumpkin seeds on the left and sunflower on the right, and the sunflower has sprouted. Wow. This is my worm bed. I keep feeding them underneath there. Over here I dug a hole, planted pumpkin on the left and sunflower on the right, and they're poking their noses out. That's so we can see them out our window when we're sitting on the couch. We feed birds like crazy. They're about to break us with all the food it takes to keep these birds going. We got all kinds of birds that come in here. Hummingbird feeders. Planted some, what are these things? Emerald giant bell peppers. Finally got them going. The squirrels keep trying to get to them. This is a self-watering pot that I designed like Leon's garden. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but got a bunch of bottles in the bottom with holes drilled in them. we'll see how this self-watering pot works out. Keep the squirrels out of it. One of them climbed up to the top this morning and went right down in there. Oh, I could have shot him. Anyhow, I dug a big hole here, planted one giant butternut squash, and this morning for the first time woke up and had this giant bloom on it. I don't know how I'm going to contain this thing. Didn't cut the grass, didn't pick up rocks. There's rocks in this ground everywhere. Just dug a hole, put super soil in it, and planted it, hoping for the best. Over here I took an old cracked pot. Mary got a bunch of yellow bell peppers. I don't know, about 4 different varieties I think. And I planted them in this pot, and my soul, they're going to town, blooming. Wow, we'll get peppers off of them soon. Got a couple more barrels I sawed them too, and plan to make some more Leon's self-watering pots out of them when I get enough bottles and enough dirt. Mary takes the top I sawed off and turns it upside down and plants things in them. Over here, I dug a couple of holes and put some crookneck squash in there. They're blooming their hearts out, look like. Hope to have squash out of here pretty soon, if I can keep the animals out of it. Last January, I was watching YouTube and canning a few things that we bought, and got the urge to plant a garden. And I guess it was December, January. I went to Lowe's and bought me some 2x12s and sawed them with a handsaw because I don't have electric saw. Screwed them together with screws and put this top over the top that I got off of one of the YouTube channels. And it's hinged and a latch on it. In January I planted tomatoes under this top. Put a little heater in there and kept it at 50 degrees. Even when it got down 20s, it kept it at above 50. But when the hot weather came, I had to take the top off and replaced it with a trellis. This morning we got our first 2 tomatoes out of this batch. These are the tomatoes that I planted in January. When I first built this raised bed and filled it with logs in the bottom, limbs and logs, and then topped it off with a foot of super soil on top of the logs. We've eaten a lot of lettuce out of here. I'm gonna have to pull these lettuce plants up there. It's getting to run in the 90s are here in central Arkansas. I'm gonna have to pull them out. This morning I was trying to tend to the tomato plants and a couple of big suckers. And Jess up at, I forgot, she's up somewhere out of Conway, was telling me about putting the suckers in the ground and they'll sprout. Well, there's a sprout, a sucker that I stuck in the dirt this morning. I watered it, put another sucker in the ground over here, watered it in. Got a few carrots growing in the middle there, I don't know. I left the board on top of them too long, and I don't know when to dig them, don't know what to look. I've never grown carrots before, but this is my attempt at it. Got to clean this thing out and get something else growing. There's where I harvested 2 ripe tomatoes this morning out of that batch there. We got cucumber plant growing up out the roof here. I sold the tomatoes that grown out the top. I don't know what to do with them. I can't go no higher. I can't reach them with my ladder. I get up on the top of the ladder as far as I can go, and that's it. I topped that one, and it's still grown since I topped it. I don't know what to do. Got some purple basil growing here to try to keep the bugs off the tomatoes. Oh man, look at that batch of tomatoes. Wow, 2 of them getting ripe there. I wished we could grow enough tomatoes to can. Anyhow, Mary had me dig a hole in the ground, put super soil in it, and she planted a rose in here. It has really come to life since we did that, but then the rains came and I see some peaked leaves there. We'll see if the rose comes out of it. This is my target practice when Scott comes out, my son. A pile of dirt came out of the septic tank when they dug the hole, and that's my backdrop for target practice. Anyhow, that's my garden tour for today.